Assalamualaikum, dear students. I hope everybody is safe and sound. I've waited for 6 minutes for everyone to join in. I hope everybody is here. And if you could just please confirm in the chat box that you can hear me and I'm audible to you so that we can commence our class. We'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes for your classmates to join in, of course, and then we can commence. We are going to talk about uh, Matthew Arnold today, right? Please confirm that you are able to hear me. Just simply write audible or yes so that I know that I am audible to you. ठीक है बेटे अच्छा we are going to talk about Matthew Arnold today, which is going to be a little easier as compared to what we have been studying because he talks about something that you might be able to resonate with. He's a poet of culture, spirituality. He's a poet of somebody who is very famous in Victorian age. And Dover Beach, the poem that we are going to discuss, has always been the legendary work of modern poetry, as well as whatever the kind of poem that brought him the fame that he always deserved. So ये उसके लिए solidified करती है. ये poem brings him all the fame and the credit that he has so far as a poet of Victorian age. As far as his personal life is concerned, let me share a screen with you. Usually, I read from these websites only and then share information with you. तो आप भी उधर से ही पढ़िएगा या जहाँ से समझ आए बेटे वहां से पढ़ लीजिएगा. Now, some life facts are given over here. Of course, he was born in England. His first book was called The Straight Traveler, and he was a school inspector of schools as well, and he has gone to many places, so he had many exposures. We can talk about this a little later. He married Frances Lucy, and he became a professor of poetry at Oxford University. He also went to United States for lecturing towards between 1883 to 1886. Point being that he has always been somebody who has been associated with um, poetry and criticism, essay writing, and literature. As far as his personal life is concerned, he was a very good student, a talented student when he was a child, and he was in the same school where his father was a headmaster. And he also earned a lot of scholarships and prizes for writing thought-provoking poetry. For example, one of his award-winning works and prize poem are Alaric at Rome. It was printed by Rugby. He was a talented student and he has written Latin and English poetry as well. And he was also very well versed in criticism and essay writing. He also won a scholarship for Oxford University, and later on, once his father was dead in 1848, in 1843, he wrote Cromwell, and that brought him another prize at the Oxford University, which is called Newdigate Prize, जो कि Oxford University के students को दिया जाता है. Later on, he earned a place of a private secretary of Lord Lansdowne, the early Whig statesman. So he had many ups and downs in his personal and professional life. The first book that he wrote, a poem of collection, was called The Straight Traveler, which was um, having a number of memorial pieces written by William Wordsworth. So when we read Matthew Arnold, you'll see that there are some influences from him that you might see in his write up as well, but there are some differences that you should be able to pinpoint once we are done. Later on, he got married to Frances Lucy, who was the daughter of a justice, and then he was not able to provide enough financial stability to the house, so he was later on appointed as a Majesty's Inspector of Schools. Now, what does an Inspector of School does? That all the regions had different schools where he used to go and observe what could have been better and what could be added. So he was paid for it. Solely for this reason, he went to Germany, Holland, and France and Switzerland as well. So he has written many poems which are vast in nature, and the fact that his observation about worldly changes are apt because he has seen it firsthand in different parts of the country. It's not just England, but the other places as well where he has been before. He was also a professor of poetry at Oxford University, and he delivered lectures in English, and he also talked about poetry and its importance, and he would hold Latin lectures as well. He became very famous for somebody who executed lectures so beautifully, and he had a series of lectures that was called on translating Homer. So he was not just a person of modern poetry; he also was very well versed in Greek and Latin mythology and languages, and he knew history as well. And all these things can be seen in Dover Beach once we study it. Then he also has written dramatic poems such as Merope, which was published in 1858. The classical tragedy drew heavily from the classical and Greek mythology, and it is very important in terms of English literature and its history. Later life and death, it was in the mid 60s that published the last essays in criticism first series. You might have studied him in your criticism paper somewhere, and then there was a second series as well. In his later life, he went to America for the lectures that we have discussed so far, and religion is one one of the very prevalent thematic landscapes that you'll find in his write-up. It is said that it is a great source of anxiety and worry for Arnold to see the religious doubts among his people of that era. In several essays, he looked at establishing the truth of Christianity. He discussed dogma and religious sects of churches. So he was considered who was somebody who would socially criticize, attack modern civilization, and he would call um, aristocrats as barbarians, the middle classes as Philistines, and had criticism of the populace. यानी वो हर किस्म के strata of the society को, यानी group of a society, class system of the society को directly and indirectly हमेशा criticize करता हुआ आपको मिलेगा. Other than this, some of his famous works have been mentioned over here. These are the poems. For example, Growing Old is a peaceful poem in which there are certain questions and answers, and his narrator is focused on how old age can bring a lot of hate towards your physical entity. Of course, जब जैसे जैसे आप बूढ़े होते जाते हो तो स्ट्रेंथ, ब्यूटी और ताकत और हर चीज में कमी आती है. तो he talks about that thing. Then there is a four stanza poem called, which is highly influenced by Greek mythology, Philomena. Now, in the narrator, we can see that it is about a woman who's going through a mourning period. There is a nightingale, and it is singing a sad song. The speaker directly talks to the bird, and if it and asks whether it had a good life when it was a woman, right? So then calls upon the Roman Christian saint Eugenia to help remove some portions of फिलोमिना द नाइटिंगेल्स एगनी. ठीक है, अगर फिलोमिना का आप टेक्स्ट देखें तो यूल सी कि किस तरह से लिखा हुआ है. ठीक है, हार्क द नाइटिंगेल द टाइनी थ्रोटेड, hark from the moonlit cedar what a burst, what triumph, hark what pain, a wanderer from the Grecian shore, still after many years in distant lands, still nourishing in the bewildered brain that wild unquenched deep sunken old pain. Say, will it never heal, and can this fragrant lawn with its cool trees and night, and the sweet tranquil Thames and moonshine and the dew to thy racked heart and brain afford no balm? Dost thou tonight behold here through the moonlight on the English grass the unfriendly palace in the Thracian wild? Dost thou again pursue with hot cheeks and seared eyes the too clear web in thy dumb sister's shame? Dost thou once more essay thy flight and feel come over thee? Poor fatigue, the feathery change once more and once more seem to make resound with love and hate, triumph and agony. Lone Dowless and the high vale, listen, Eugenia, how thick the birds come crawling through the leaves. Again thou hearest eternal passion, eternal पेन. अब आप देख रहे हैं किस किस्म की इमेजरी एंड डिस्क्रिप्शन यूज हुई हुई है. डॉवर बीच में भी आप देखेंगे कि नेचुरल फिनोमेनास को, नेचुरल डिस्क्रिप्शन को उसने मेंशन किया. फिलोमिना में आपको लेमेंट नजर आ रहा है, अफसोस नजर आ रहा है, नाइटिंगेल के परस्पेक्टिव नजर आ रहे हैं. देन वी हैव डॉवर बीच ऑल्सो. इट्स a dramatic monologue where the poet is lamenting on the loss of faith in the mid of 1800s, and then he talks about the natural image कि ये किस तरह से ये image represent करती है loss of faith को, वो मैं आपको अभी बताऊंगी. Then we have Buried Life, which talks about that an agony of a lover who doesn't get his lover to love him back. So there is an uncontrollable sadness over there. And furthermore, the poem focuses on how the fate determines whether you're going to have love or not. Then lines written in the Kingston Gardens. You'll see that in this one we have a speaker who's experienced and has been to these gardens in London, England, and the poem has 11 stanzas, and it is associated with the history of the gardens. So he wishes the calmness of the gardens to come back in his life, in everyday life. So ये कुछ उसका basic introduction था that I wanted to share with you. I hope you're clear about Matthew Arnold. This is him, as you can see on your screen. Matthew Arnold's poetry revolutionized English literature with his introspect and thought-provoking works during Victorian era. He was known for exploring themes of cultural decay, spirituality, and spiritual pursuit of truth. तो ये एक छोटा सा introduction था. I hope you have understood about him. If you have any questions regarding um, um, what do, the poet's introduction. Please go ahead and. Okay. Okay, I can see the messages that you've written that you don't have any questions, so we can move forward. Now let's start the shorter poem first. Let's talk about the Requiescat by Matthew. अब ये जो word है ये थोड़ा सा tricky है to pronounce. Let me show you the pronunciation as well so that you don't pronounce it incorrectly. Let me attach it. देखिए इसकी प्रोनाउंसिएशन को आप सुने ताकि आपको थोड़ा बहुत ये बोलना आए.
Requiescat.
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 इसका मतलब है a wish, a prayer or a response to a dead person.
Requiescat.
समझ आ गई कि ये थोड़ा सा इस तरह से वर्ड है जो आपको मुश्किल लग सकता है सम ऑफ यू. ठीक है, ये लैटिन से निकला है और इंग्लिश में आ गया है. राइट, यहाँ पर इसको आप देख सकते हैं.
Requiescat.
Requiescat. Requiescat बोल लेंगे, आपको लगता है? चलिए, बोलना तो पड़ेगा ही ऑफ कोर्स. अब इसकी रेसिटेशन एक बच्चा कर रहा है. आई वुड लाइक टू शो यू दैट. आपको पता चलेगा कि एक छोटा सा बच्चा इस पोएम को रिसाइट कर रहा है तो वो किस तरह से सुनाई देती है. तो टेक्स्ट पे आप फोकस कर सकते हैं. दिस इज द चाइल्ड आई वाज रेफरिंग टू. थोड़ा सा डरा हुआ है आपकी तरह ही बच्चा, लेकिन पढ़ ठीक रहा है. लेट्स रीड और लिसन, आई मीन, एंड देन वी कैन talk about its possible interpretation.
Strew on her roses, roses, and never a spray of you. In quiet she reposes, are with the lighted too. Her mirth the world required, she bathed it in smiles of glee. But her heart was tired, tired, and now they let her be. Her life was turning, turning, in mazes of heat and sound. But for peace her soul was yearning, and now peace laps her round. Her cabin damp spirit, it fluttered and paled for breath. Tonight it doth inherit the vasty hall of death.
ठीक है, आई होप
Hello, readers.
कुछ ना कुछ आपको समझ आ गई है कि किस तरह से इसको प्रोनाउंस करना है और वो किस तरह से वर्ड्स को रिपीट भी कर रहा है. नाउ लेट्स लुक एट द पोएम एंड पॉसिबल इंटरप्रिटेशन. When you search about this poem, you won't find much information about it, but I found two analyses, explanation, and interpretations given by two people. So we'll read from there only. There are, as you can see, 4 stanzas. Okay, 1 second. Okay, it's attached. Right, so I was referring to the poem. Strew on her roses, roses, and never a spray of you. In quiet she responses, ah, would that I did too. Her myth, the world required, she bathed in its smiles of glee. But her heart was tired, tired, and now they let her be. Her life was turning, turning, it mazes of heat and sound. But for peace her soul was yearning, and now peace laps her round. Her cabined ample spirit, it fluttered and failed for breath. Tonight it doth inherit the vasty hall of death. ठीक है, सो यहाँ पे एक इंटरप्रिटेशन है. यहाँ पे इसका इंट्रोडक्शन दिया गया है. मैथ्यू ऑर्नल्स Requiescat is a beautiful elegiac poem that is both mournful and nostalgic. The poem was written in the memory of his beloved sister Susanna, who died at the age of 20. The poem speaks of her passing and the sadness that engulfed Arnold's heart. The poem is written in a lyrical style. देखिए lyrical कैसे है? When we get to know tired and tired, turning, turning, roses, roses, राइट. और उसके बाद हमारे पास इसमें क्लियर राइमिंग स्कीम भी है. Now this will in the literary criticism and interpretation, this will be analyzed it will be analyzing its various aspects from the poem to explore the themes of symbols used by Arnold to convey his emotion. ठीक है, यहाँ पर हमें पता चल गया है कि वो किस तरह से बात कर रहा है. Stew on her roses, roses, and never sprawl of you. In quiet she responses, and would that I did too. Now this she represents his sister, तो वो उसके बारे में बात कर रहा है. Structure की बात करें, the poem consists of 6 stanzas, each for 4 lines. The rhyming scheme of the poem is A B C B. which means that the second and the fourth lines of each stanza rhyme. The use of this rhyme scheme gives the poem a musical quality, and the use of enjambment creates a smooth flow between the lines. The poem does not have a strict meter, but there are instances of iambic and anaspecific meter. The poem structure is simple, but the use of imagery and sound devices make it powerful. देखिए टर्निंग हीट एंड साउंड, ठीक है। उसके बाद शी रिस्पॉन्सेस, फेल टू ब्रीथ, तो ये सारे वर्ड्स आपको ह्यूमन फैकल्टीज एंड सेंसेस को यूज करते हुए नजर आ रहे हैं। Arnold uses the language and imagery in the most striking aspect of the poem. The poem is full of vivid images and creates a picture of Susanna's life and death. He describes Susanna as the sister, sweet and gentle maid, with emphasis on her innocence and purity. The use of the word used maid also creates a sense of youth and beauty. Arnold also uses natural imagery to describe Susanna, such as the young May moon and the rose in June. These images create a sense of vitality and life. Arnold also uses religious imagery to convey his message. He describes Susanna as a saint of heaven, which implies that she has achieved a state of eternal peace. The use of religious imagery not only a reflection of Arnold's belief, but also a way to control himself. As far as themes are concerned, thematic landscapes are concerned, of course, we have the theme of grief and sadness, we have a theme of religion, we have a theme of personal relationships, and whatnot. Symbols that have been used in it is requisite is also significant because it means rest in peace. RIP के लिए use होता है in Latin, right? So ये एक symbol इसमें use हो रहा है. The May moon is also a symbol of youth and vitality. It's fading representations of passing phases of life. Now, this is basic interpretation. Arnold's Requisite is a poignant elegy that conveys the emotions of grief, loss, and passage of time. The poem is a reflection of Arnold's love for his sister and his deep sadness at her passing. Arnold uses the imagery to create a vivid picture of Susanna's life and death. The poem is not only a reflection of his personal experience, but also a meditation on human condition. The theme of grief is universal, and the poem speaks to anyone who has experienced the loss of loved one, who has seen some death. The poem reminds the reader that death is inevitable part of life, that everything is temporary. The use of natural imagery and the repetition of the word requisite creates a sense of peace and acceptance. The poem is not only a tribute to Susanna but also a reminder to the reader to cherish life while he is alive or she is alive, because that is the only time that we have left. In conclusion, the poem is beautiful in both mournful and comforting perspective. The speaker speaks to the universal experience of grief and loss. It reminds the reader to appreciate the time that we are left with. And it is a vivid picture of what's happening around them. Now, this is one interpretation that is given out there, and then there is another one, ठीक है, जो कि इसी में ऐड होगा. आपने दोनों पढ़नी है और दोनों के बारे में ही आपको थोड़ा बहुत पता होना चाहिए, ठीक है. अब आपको 2 से 3 मिनट दिए जाते हैं. इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस प्लीज गो अहेड एंड आस्क. कोई सवाल हो तो बेटे पूछे. Okay, now let's look at the text for once more for the last time. Strew on her roses, roses, and never a spray of you. In quiet she responses, I would that I would too. Now, here the speaker, who is assumed to be Matthew Arnold himself, he says and he asks people to actually place some roses on the grave instead of the yew. What is a yew? Yew are the branches which are able to symbolize the cycle of death and sadness that comes along with it. Now, further, he says that the person in the grave, यहाँ पर she से हमें पता चल जाता है that is resting peacefully in the eternal place, and he wishes that he could do that too. He wants to rest like her, right? Too, like the person who's under the grave. Second stanza देखिए, her myth the world required. She bathed it in smiles of glee, but her heart was tired, tired, and now they let her be. So again, the speaker remembers, Matthew Arnold remembers his sister, how they used to have happinesses, and there were many smiles which were brought upon people's faces when they were together. But deep down under, she was definitely worn out or tired, tired. Double repetition है हमारे पास. So deep down under, when she was alive, at one point of her life, she was tired. Now in death, she's left alone. They let her be. She's left alone, and she's finally resting and doing the rest she always required and needed. Her life was turning, turning, it mazes of heat and sound, but for peace her soul was yearning, and now peace laps her round. Now her life was busy, of course, it was always in a turn and turn, and it was full of noise and ups and downs. There was chaos, heat and sound was there. Now the soul, यहाँ पर वो mention करता है, the soul was yearning, soul was asking for some kind of peace. Now in death, now peace laps her round. Now in death, after she's dead, she found the peace she always was hoping for and yearning for. Then her cabined ample spirit, it fluttered and failed for breath. Tonight it doth inherit the vasty hall of death. Now her wonderful and spiritual struggle has ended. Of course, एक जिंदगी जो उसने गुजार ली है, it's not there anymore. The hardships are gone. When she was breathing, she was going through life's hardships, and she was weak because of it. But now in death, tonight, she's going to inherit the free spirit, ample spirit that has found a vast and calmness and smoothness to rest forever. So this is your basic interpretation of this poem. So basically यहाँ पे spiritual लॉन्गिंगनेस की बात हो रही है कि कैसे जिंदगी मॉडर्न लाइफ वाज सो chaotic for her sister that she's only at peace when she's dead, right? So it is about remembering her sister, sorry, his sister, and there is the feel of sadness and comfort which is there. The poem is clear, बेटे समझ आ गई है? It's not that difficult, by the way. कुछ ना कुछ तो समझ आ गई होगी. Yes? बेटे requisite का एग्जैक्ट मीनिंग है प्रेयर. ये भी हमने शुरू में देखा भी था शायद. यस, इट मीन्स इट्स फ्रॉम द लैटिन वर्ड जिसका मतलब है रेस्ट इन पीस. एंड और इसका वैसे जो मतलब यहाँ लिखा हुआ है दैट इज अ विश और प्रेयर और अ रिस्पॉन्स. और अगर आप ये पूरी पोएम ही देखें तो इट सेल्फ इज अ प्रेयर एंड इट इज अ विश, राइट? कि वो कह रहा है कि मेरी जो सिस्टर थी, जो भी इसमें अननेम्ड सिस्टर है या फीमेल करेक्टर है, उसको क्या चाहिए था, और अब आफ्टर दैट शी माइट गेट इट. ठीक है. Okay, as far as the Victorian age concerned, is concerned. We have talked about how Victorian age saw a rise in middle classes and the feelings and the struggles that they went through. So, if we talk about this poem, we can see that individual emotions are in struggle, and there is a focus that when she was alive, because of industrialization and urbanization and all the social changes that were going on, there was chaos, restlessness, and disconnection with nature and everybody else. And perhaps this prayer, this lament, this requisite is meant for it, where the poet is trying to say that she could not find peace when she was alive because of industrialization and everything that was going on. But now, once she's dead, she's able to definitely rest and understand. तो इट्स अ लॉन्गिंग फॉर पीस ना, पोएम का एंड क्या है कि पीसफुल एंडिंग हो जाती है. उसके बाद विक्टोरियन एज में वी हैव सीन मेलनकॉलिक एंड obsession विद द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ डेथ. अगर आपको याद होगा, जब हमने माय लास्ट डचेस भी पढ़ी, तो डेथ का कॉन्सेप्ट वहां पर था ही था. अभी जब हम क्रिस्टीना रोसेटी को पढ़ेंगे, यू विल सी के डेथ को बार बार वो याद करती है, या शी इज मोर इंक्लाइंड टुवर्ड्स death as a thematic landscape. So this poem is not only reflecting his personal feelings, but it is also the cultural uh, uh, and societal drift of people from the peaceful life. यानी उनके पास इतनी turn and turn आ गया, they are always tired, and they inherit this chaos from the world. So it's almost as if it's a prayer, it's a lament for some kind of peacefulness in life. Other than this, religious and spiritual doubts can be there. Of course, crisis of faith could be there. Here, in this poem, we can see that looking at death as a tendency of eternal peace rather than transitional period. जैसे हमने romanticism में पढ़ा था ना कि ट्रांजिशनल पीरियड इज देयर, ट्रांसेंडेंटलिज्म इज देयर, जहाँ पर पोएट्स जो है, पूरी जो थॉट प्रोसेस है वो ट्रांसेंडेंट कर रही है. यहाँ पर ट्रांसेंडेंट नहीं कर रही, यहाँ पर सीधा सीधा डेथ की तरफ जा रही है. इसके अलावा और कोई इम्पोर्टेंट बात इसमें हम जो डिस्कस कर सकते हैं कि इट टॉक्स अबाउट द hardships and the cruel life that a woman of a Victorian age had to go through, right? Now, this is a woman who is deceased, and she's portrayed and represented as somebody who was not having any smiles. She was always tired, and she was always turning and turning because her life was always chaotic. So it also aligns with the idealistic Victorian woman and how she was supposed to be a self-sacrificing, nurturing kind of an entity. तो ये सारी चीजें, ये पूरे थीमेटिक लैंडस्केप्स जो मैंने आपसे शेयर किए, वो इस पोएम में आप इसके साथ अटैच कर सकते हैं. Is the poem clear, बेटे? If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. No question? सब समझ आ गई है? चलें फिर 2 मिनट का और ब्रेक लेते हैं. Then I'll tell you, I will tell you about the next poem, that is Dover Beach.
मैम
जी जी।
मैम हमारा क्विज मंडे को होगा कि नेक्स्ट फ्राइडे को?
बेटे मंडे को होगा, पहले डिले हो गया ना।
जी मैम, सही। थैंक यू।
और ये तो बताएं, आपको ना क्विज में कौन कौन सी पोएम्स दी हुई है? हम्म।
मैम माय लास्ट डचेस है और मीटिंग एट नाइट।
ओके, दैट्स वेरी बेसिक, वो तो बहुत आसान सा हो जाता है। चलिए इस पॉइंट पे और नहीं ऐड करते, वो फिर हम बाद में कर लेंगे, अदरवाइज कुछ और भी होना चाहिए था। या ऐसा हो सकता है कि हम फ्राइडे को इसको शिफ्ट कर लें, क्विज को, और इसमें कुछ और भी ऐड कर लें ताकि आपकी तैयारी हो जाए, क्या कहते हैं?
जी मैम। मैम बट उसके साथ आप भी दूसरा मेथड आर्नल्ड डालेंगी तो
ऐसा है।
दूसरा पॉइंट डालें।
जी जी, ऐसा ही है। प्लीज इन द चैट बॉक्स यस लिखें या नो लिखें। यस लिखेंगे तो उसका मतलब ये है कि मैथ्यू आर्नल्ड को ऐड करके आप दो पोइट्स का टेस्ट देना चाह रहे हैं। नो लिखेंगे तो उसका मतलब ये होगा कि यू जस्ट वांट टू गिव टेस्ट फॉर क्या नाम है, ब्राउनिंग ओनली।
मैम अगर हम अलग अलग दे दे, रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग का अलग क्विज और इसका अलग, क्योंकि फिर वो ज्यादा।
आप मतलब सब लिख देना, यस और नो लिख दें, तो दैट विल बी माई क्यू कि करना है कि नहीं करना है। आप अपने व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में भी यस और नो वो जो करवा सकते हैं ना, पोल नहीं होता है उधर, वो पोल करवा लो, कोई मसला नहीं। मुझे बस बता दें, मेरे लिए दोनों चलेंगे, मुझे कोई इशू नहीं है। मोस्टली आई कैन सी इन द चैट बॉक्स के सब कह रहे हैं कि फ्राइडे को शिफ्ट कर दिया जाए। एटलीस्ट 10 लोगों ने तो कह ही दिया है, नहीं एक मिनट, एक दो 6 लोगों ने कहा है, बिकॉज बाकी तो सुन ही नहीं रहे होंगे, सोए होंगे। 7 हो गए, ठीक है। तो 7 पीपल आर सेइंग, आप वो पोल करवा के आयशा, अगर आप किसी और क्लास में है, आयशा से रिक्वेस्ट है कि बेटे आप ये करवा के मुझे उसका रिजल्ट भेज दें, तो फिर आपसे मैं आपको कंफर्म कर देती हूँ कि नेक्स्ट फ्राइडे को मैथ्यू आर्नल्ड एंड रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग दोनों से टेस्ट हो जाएगा। अच्छा है ना, टेस्ट दे देंगे, एग्जाम आने वाले हैं, वैसे इतनी छुट्टियां कर ली हैं, तो दिस विल डेफिनेटली हेल्प यू understand and read a little. ठीक है. So it is decided then, because many students are saying yes, that on Friday you're going to have your quiz, and the quiz is going to be from um, Robert Browning and Matthew Arnold. Let me post this announcement in your class as well so that I don't forget. Wait, please. फ्राइडे को डेट बनती है। क्योंकि बेटे ये आपका क्विज हो गया, ये मैंने यहाँ पोस्ट कर दिया आपके सीआर से, कहती हूँ आपके किसी ग्रुप में भी शेयर कर देंगे, तो उससे आपको याद रहेगा। और इसको अगर आपने मिस कर दिया बेटे तो मिस कर दिया, आई विल नॉट बी टेकिंग इट अगेन किसी भी केस में, प्लीज आपने आना है, ठीक है? इट अदरवाइज बहुत मिसहैप्स हो सकते हैं। वेटेज सिस्टम है, आपको आई होप समझ आ गया होगा। आपकी ही एक्सेप्टेंस पे ये क्विज हो रहा है, आप माने थे ये क्विज हो रहा था, अदरवाइज तो मैंने तो आपको सारे पॉसिबिलिटीज ऑफर किए थे। एनीवे, गोइंग बैक टू डॉवर बीच, नाउ लेट्स टॉक अबाउट Dover Beach finally. So these are some important pointers that you should know about this poem. That the central point of this poem is the decline of faith and how world is progressing without faith in it, religion in it. Speaker is assumed to be the Matthew Arnold. The poetic form is free verse. Themes are nature and religion, and then faith and sadness are the feelings which are evoked in the entire poem, and it's written in 19th century. Now, Dover Peach explores the decline of faith and the resulting sense of uncertainty and melancholia that comes with the modern era. मॉडर्न एरा में एक और बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम थी कि एग्जिस्टेंशियलिज्म, यानी हर चीज की एग्जिस्टेंस पे क्वेश्चन आने लग पड़ा था, तो दैट कुड आल्सो बी पार्ट ऑफ इट. नाउ लुक एट द फर्स्ट स्टैंजा. वी हैव अ टोटल ऑफ 4 stanzas and 37 lines are there, and if you look at the distribution of different स्टेंजाज ओवर हेयर, तो वो सिमिलर नहीं है. हर स्टेंजा में 6 लाइनें नहीं है, हर स्टेंजा में 8 लाइनें नहीं है. सो इस तरह से इसमें डिफरेंस है. राइमिंग स्कीम, क्योंकि ये फ्री वर्स है, तो एक जो लिरिकल राइमिंग स्कीम है वो आपको यहाँ पर नहीं मिलेगी. द सी इज calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair upon the straits, on the French coast the light gleam and is gone, the cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet as the night air, only from long line of spray where the sea meets the moon blanched land. So in first 8 lines we can see the description of the scenario, यानी settings पता चल रही हैं कि poet कहाँ पर है. So he's looking through a window, because from line 6 we get to know that he's addressing another person in the room, और उसे वो कह रहा है come to the window and look at the scenario. Scenario क्या है? The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair, and then we have a strait alongside the French coast of light. Now we have gleams which are going away to the England stand, cliffs of England stand, and glimmering and vast of the tranquil bay. So जो scenario है, जो setting है, वो simple सी शोर की है और फ्रेंच कोस्ट की है. फ्रेंच कोस्ट इंग्लिश चैनल क्या है कि आप मतलब ये डॉवर बीच जगह का नाम है. द नेम इट सेल्फ टॉक्स अबाउट डॉवर बीच, कि डॉवर में जो बीच है उसकी बात हो रही. उसमें किसी कमरे की विंडो से द स्पीकर इज लुकिंग एट द waters, and he can see it to the last corner जहां तक वो देख सकता है, and he can see a glimmering light. A light is fluctuating, coming and going. That fluctuation is a representation of the fluctuation of English people towards their religion. And then he says to the companion, which is supposedly, it is said that it is actually Matthew Arnold is on the honeymoon with his wife, who's Frances Lucy, a daughter of Judge, and they are here and they're enjoying. And he's uttering his concern in front of his wife, and he's saying, come to the window, sweet is the night air, only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon blenched land. Now it is the same description where he's saying that the land and the water, they meet on a blanched land, and the moon is being represented. आपको पता है ना, moon reflect करता है, तो ये night time है. Now he says, he addresses the beloved in line number 9. Listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling. At their return up the high stand begin and cease and then again begin. With tremulous cadence slow bring the eternal note of sadness in. So वो कहते हैं, listen, you hear the grating roar of the water coming to the seashore into the blenched land, watering itself on the pebbles and creating a sound and taking the pebbles with it. समटाइम्स जो सी शोर पे पानी आता है, लैंड पे जो पानी आता है, उसमें इतनी ताकत होती है कि वो जो छोटे छोटे पत्थर नहीं होते, पेबल्स, उनको साथ बहाकर वो ले जाता है। सो दैट इज, ये बहाने की जो इमेजरी है, तो टेकिंग बैक विद इट represents that how the modern world, being the roaring grating roar of the water, it comes to the seashore, it takes the pebbles. Pebbles could be the people of religion and people of those perspectives जो एक्चुअली गॉड में बिलीव करते हैं, उनके उनके रिलीजियसनेस को, उनके फेथ को बहाकर पेबल्स की तरह साथ ले जाता है, बैक एंड फ्लिंग एट देयर रिटर्न अप द हाई स्ट्रैंड। द मोमेंट इट कम्स बैक एंड गोज बैक, टू एंड फ्रो, एब एंड फ्लो, ये बार बार आता जाता है। जितनी बार ये जाता है वो उतनी इंटेंसिटी से लोगों को साथ बहा कर ले जाता है, उनके फेथ को, उनके बिलीफ को साथ बहा कर ले जाता है। दैट्स व्हाट ही इज ट्राइंग टू से ओवर हियर। ही सेज बिगिन and cease and then again begin, with tremulous cadence slow and bring the eternal note of sadness. So once the pebbles and the belief of people are gone, with the water on the blenched land, and the water is taking its full force, putting it on the pebbles, making a sound, and he can hear that sound, and that sound represents the faithlessness among English people as well. And he says the water is gone, the pebbles are gone, the faith is gone, and once it comes back for another round, it brings eternal note of sadness within it, right? Then second stanza starts with Sophocles, who is a Greek dramatist who has always talked about philosophical perspectives. So, as we have discussed and established the fact that Matthew Arnold was one of those poets who was always well versed in Latin and Greek mythology, and he was very much interested in history as well. So, therefore, he has given an allusion in the poem in line 15 where Sophocles has been mentioned. He says Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegon, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound of thought hearing it by the distant northern sea. So Sophocles is an allusion, a reference within the poem, which represents that Sophocles centuries ago predicted the same misery that would be brought upon on humankind, which he saw in the Sea of Aegon, and he could see that this turbid of ebb and flow was there, and it was there in his mind. And then he uses human misery, that Sophocles and those that water of Aegon, and that ebb and flow of that water brought in human miseries. And over the years, we have always seen much development as well, but there have been many human miseries as well. So here we can simply and safely say that Matthew Arnold is trying to come to a conclusion where he emphasizes that advancements, changes in the society, the faithlessness, the hopelessness, godlessness, and invention of too many scientific developments has caused this. And Sophocles predicted it long ago, and we, now he uses this we. This is not a personal pronoun. This is a collective pronoun for the people, for the English people of that seashore. We find also in the sound of a thought, hearing it by the distant northern sea. So he says that we are part of it now. We have seen it and we have never done anything about it. So the human misery and the eternal note of sadness is approaching us, and we can hear it from the northern sea that is far, far away, that is there at the distance. Then we have third stanza. The sea of fate was once too at the full, the round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright gilded fold. But now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind down the vast edges drearer and naked shingles of the world. So here he says the sea of fate. Now this sea is not a physical sea that he has shared in the very first line, the sea is calm tonight. यहाँ पर physical description है. अब जो third stanza में हमारे पास description है, it's different. It says the sea of faith was once too at the full and round earth's shore. So here the poet says that the sea used to represent, sea एक बहुत vast entity होती है. It used to represent the people who were very much together in terms of culture, in terms of spirituality, in terms of religion, are not there anymore. He says the sea of faith was once too at the full. It used to be very much united. People used to be very much united with one faith of sea, but it's not there anymore. He says, but now I only hear its melancholy long withdrawing roar. पहले स्टैंजा में हमारे पास था आपने देखा होगा ग्रेटिंग रोर है कि इट्स कमिंग टुवर्ड्स अस. व्हाट? सैडनेस, द डिस्टेंस, द ह्यूमन मिजरी इज coming towards us. Now what we have, the modern melancholia, the modern hopelessness, uncertainty is there, and it is withdrawing its roar, retreating to the breath, one night wind, and the vast edges of the terror and naked shingles of the world. So world is naked now. The world and the people in it are not chaperoned by any religion. They are not taking any refuge under the realm of religion anymore. They are out there, unshielded, uncovered, and they are doing whatever they understand, and therefore there is melancholy, and there is no unanimity or no unity among people whatsoever. Then last stanza is important, where he says, "Our love, let us be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy nor love nor light, no certitude, no peace, nor help for pain, and we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms to struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night." So, our love, let us be true, is a reference to the beloved that is there in the room. And he says, let us be true to each other at least. Because the world that we see is not real, it is not what it seems to be. It is almost as if it's a dream, and it lies. It tells us lies because it's tells us that it is so beautiful, so vast, so various, it is so unique, and it has newness to it, but that is not the truth. The truth is that there is no joy, no happiness, no light, no certainty, no future waiting for us. There is no peace, and there is no healing provided for the pain. It also represents the chaos, the hopelessness, the deaths in Victorian age, and the world wars that it saw. All those things have been there because pain उन्हीं की कम हो रही थी जिनके पास पैसा था. A person who's a common person was not able to get out of this darkling pain and pain. So he says that the world is not fair. The world doesn't offer hope and comfort to all. So it is just a smoke screen. That is what he's saying over here. And that is why he says he addresses his beloved, his wife, Frances Lucy, to be one with him and to be very truthful to him so that they can enjoy this pureness that they share with each other. And then he says, where ignorant armies clash by night. Here he pessimistically concludes the poem, where he says that in the daytime they have all these things, but in the nighttime they are fighting with each other, they are killing each other in the name of religion, in the name of science, in the name of everything, and they are not sure what they are doing because they have turned away from religion, and that is the reason that they are going through these problems. जी बेटे, somebody raised their hand. Time. What's the question? No question? ठीक है. आई होप द पोएम इज क्लियर इन योर माइंड नाउ. इसकी पॉसिबल इंटरप्रिटेशन बेटा इसी वेबसाइट पे है जो आपसे मैंने शेयर कर दी है. आपने पढ़ लेना है. ये सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी. इट्स वेरी इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड. इज इट क्लियर? द पोएम इज क्लियर और नॉट? इफ इट इज, यस लिख दीजिए चैट बॉक्स में ताकि मुझे कंफर्म हो जाए. ओके. इफ यू लुक एट अनदर पोएम, ओनली द टेक्स्ट ऑफ कोर्स, आपको और भी पता चलेगा कि किस तरह से ये पोएम्स लिखता है. देखिए, इस पोएम का नाम है लॉन्गिंग. लॉन्गिंग इज फीलिंग connectedness with your loved ones. The central message is dreams offer a temporary escape. तो जो ड्रीम हमने अभी टॉवर बीच में देखा है वो टेम्परेरी एस्केप है, ठीक है। और स्पीकर इस पोएम का एक आदमी है, ठीक है। अ पेन ऑफ सेपरेशन इज देयर। अब सेपरेशन इंसान से भी, रिलीजन से भी, मुल्क से भी, सेपरेशन इज अ फीलिंग। इट कुड बी फ्रॉम एनीथिंग, अ सेपरेशन फ्रॉम योर पेट डॉग इवन, दैट कुड बी it as well. So dreams, love is there, hopelessness and sadness is there. Now look at the text only. सिर्फ टेक्स्ट मैंने आपको दिखाना है ताकि आपको थोड़ा सा आइडिया हो कि कैसे लिखता है। Come to me in my dreams, and then by day I shall be well again. So for so the night will more than pay the hopeless longing of the day. Come as thou comest thousand times, a messenger from radiant climes, and smile on the new world and be as kind to others as to me. देखिए न्यू वर्ल्ड का रेफरेंस कि it's a fake, it's a sham, it's a smoke screen. Or as thou never comest in sooth, come now and let me dream it truth, and part my hair and kiss my brow, and say, my love, why sufferest thou? Come to me in my dreams, and then by day I shall be well again, for so night will be more than pay the hopeless longing of the day. So इन इस चार स्टेंजा, अब ये बहुत ही सिमेट्रिकल है, हमारे पास हर स्टेंजा में चार लाइनें हैं, लेकिन उसमें भी वो अपनी लॉन्गिंगनेस और न्यू वर्ल्ड को कहीं ना कहीं पर क्रिटिसाइज कर गया है। तो इस तरह की पोएम्स ये लिखता है। इसके अलावा अगर एक और पोएम है जो कि फिलोमोना, तो मैंने आपको शायद कहीं बता दी थी। इसमें एक और होती है, गार्डन्स पे बेस्ड होती है वो। यस, दिस वन लाइन्स रिटन इन Kensington Gardens. इसका टेक्स्ट अगर आप देखें, in this lone open glade lie, screened by deep boughs on either hand, and at its end to say the eye, those black crowned red bold pine trees stand. Birds here make song, each bird has his, across the glistening city's hum. अब सिटी की हमिंग जो होती है वो केओटिक होती है, सो वो बर्ड्स की बात कर रहा है, गार्डन्स की बात कर रहा है। ही इज बीइंग अ नेचर पोएट ओवर हियर. How green under its boughs it is, how thick the tremulous sheep cries come. Sometimes a child will cross the glade to take his nurse's broken toy. Sometimes a thrush flit overhead, deep in her unknown day's employ. Here at my feet, what wonders pass, what endless active life is here, what blowing daisies, fragrant grass, and air stood forest fresh and clear. So ये वहां पर उसको एडमायर कर रहा है, नेचर को एडमायर कर रहा है, किससे? सिटी से कंपेयर करके, सिटीज हम को। Scarce fresher in the mountain sod, where the tired angler lies, stretched out and eased to basket and of rod, counts his days, spoil the spotted trout. In the huge world which roars hard by, again, huge world. It's a vast world. By others happy if they can, but in my helpless cradle I was breath on the rural pan. So urbanization and ruralization का comparison हो रहा है. I on man's impatience uproar hurled, think often as I hear them rave, that peace has left the upper world and now keeps only in the grave. Upper world यानी the worldly life that a person is living, and सुकून सिर्फ मौत वाला, मौत में है, उसकी बात हो रही है। जैसे कि हमने इसकी जो पहली पोएम पढ़ी है, रैक्यूज जैकेट, उसमें यही बात हो रही है कि ग्रेव में जाके उस खातून को एक्चुअली calmness provide होती है। Yet here is peace forever new when I who watch them away, still all things in this glade to go through the changes of their quiet day. Then to their happy rest they pass, the flowers up close, the birds are fed, the night comes down upon the grass, the child sleeps warmly in his bed. Calm soul of all things, make it mine to feel amid the city's jar that there abides a peace of thine man did not make and cannot mar. The will to the neither strive nor cry, the power to feel with others give. Calm, calm and more, not let me die before I have begun to live. So यहाँ पे आपको बहुत ही रूरलाइजेशन और अर्बनाइजेशन का बहुत अच्छा सा खूबसूरत सा वो डिफरेंस भी बता रहा है, और अपने कंसर्न्स भी बता रहा है कि हाउ आई वॉज एंड हाउ व्हाट आई फेल्ट। तो इन पोएम्स को पढ़ने से भी कलेक्टिवली आपको समझ आता है कि मैथ्यू आर्नल्ड किस तरह का है। जी बेटे, कोई कुछ कहना चाह रहा था, बताएं। नो? Everything is clear? और मैंने आपकी ना क्लास में कुछ पोस्ट किया होगा, लेट मी शो इट टू यू। आप जाएंगे ना मैथ्यू अर्नल्ड पे और डोवर बीच पे जाएंगे तो यहाँ एक स्टडी अटैच्ड होगी दैट कैन हेल्प यू अंडरस्टैंड सिंपल थematic landscapes that are there in the poem, and it talks about the representation of loss of faith in Matthew Arnold's or Dover Beach। इसमें सिर्फ एक चीज नहीं है जो कि आपको शायद नहीं लगे, वो है न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म, बट दैट्स ओके। आप बाकी एनालिसिस भी पढ़ लें तो आप उसको कर सकते हैं। तो ये बहुत अच्छा आर्टिकल है, इसको आप पढ़ेंगे तो आपको क्लैरिटी से बहुत कुछ समझ आ जाएगा, राइट। ये आर्टिकल आप पढ़ लीजिएगा। इसके अलावा एक और स्टडी है, वो थोड़ी सी डेप्थ एनालिसिस हो सकती है, वो अपनी स्टडी के लिए अगर आप पढ़ना चाहें तो साइकोलॉजिकल डेप्थ एंड टावर बीच के बारे में। ये थोड़ी सी कॉम्प्लेक्स है, समझ आ जाए तो गुड, नहीं तो यू कैन लीव इट आउट। Okay, that's all for today. If you don't have any questions, then I'll be taking your attendance and concluding the class, and I'll see you tomorrow. मैंने दोनों क्लास इकट्ठी नहीं रखी बेटे, क्योंकि फिर कंसंट्रेट करना प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है और सुना नहीं जाता, राइट। सो इससे आपको फायदा ही होगा। कल हम अगले पोइट की बात करेंगे, क्रिस्टीना रोसेट्टी की। तो एंड यू कैन आस्क मी एनी क्वेश्चंस रिगार्डिंग रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग एंड मैथ्यू आर्नल्ड इफ यू हैव एनी, ताकि हम उसको क्लैरिफाई कर सकें। आपकी अटेंडेंस भी हो गई है, तो दैट विल बी ऑल। थैंक यू सो मच। अल्लाह हाफिज, टेक केयर।